part of my season, I got comfortable, and I just was lackadaisical, going out, eating anything, all type of the night. Like, what was I doing? I never forget my trainer back in Chicago. He was like, man, you don't really want it for real. When he told me that, ever since then, I made sure I put this in priority first. I chose training over going on vacation. I'm gonna give it my all today because I don't want to let them down. Either just let myself down. I don't want nobody outworking me. Albany came out of nowhere. I never heard of the school. I was like, why not? I was just getting a feeling. I'm like, it need to be a change. Enter the transfer portal. Houston Christian hit me up. Never heard of this school either. I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna go, I'm gonna trust God. Sometimes you do get to worrying, but you can't worry and pray. We made history at that school. If this is something that you wanna do, make sure you give it your all because you don't wanna have no regrets.
Welcome to the Winners Club podcast. I'm your host, Bryce, and today I'm here with former D1 football player who has now declared for the NFL draft, Semaj Brown. Semaj, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we're going to get into your mindset as an athlete, but also I want to hear your journey to become a future pro athlete right there. Okay, all right, so
gotcha.
Let's start from the beginning. What are your first memories playing football?
My dad he been a football coach for a long time, since before I was even born. So I've been around players my whole life. I was born with a football in my hand. Yeah. I always had in my mind, like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, it was installed in me.
And in high school, you were the team captain and team MVP. So what'd you do differently from others to like separate yourself?
My work ethic. I keep in my mind, I don't want nobody to outwork me, you know, so I'm making sure I'm the first one there, last one to leave, you know, so just having that mentality of not getting outworked. It's been a couple times actually, like where I chose training over going out or going on vacations or going, you know, just anywhere. I made sure I put this a priority first because, you know, this is something that I wanted to do. To be honest, it took me a little minute to get that way for real, because at first I would work out, but like it would be like, okay, as soon as I work out, I'm done. Yeah. And I'll never forget one of my big brother. He's like my big brother. His name Kerry Neal. He was hard on us. You know, he always told us like he's a trainer back in Chicago, and he was just hard on us. He was just always be like, man, you don't really want it for real, you know. So it was like when he told me that, and this was what I was probably about a freshman, sophomore in high school. So he told me that, and like ever since then, like my mentality changed. So I just made sure I'm doing the extra workouts, doing the extra stretching, make sure I'm doing the extra techniques I need to work on, anything. So him saying that was most definitely like a step into where I molded my mind into, I have to do, this have to be the biggest priority that I have, and make sure it was the biggest one. So.
Yeah. And that worked to shift your mentality because you performed well in high school. And so what was that college recruiting process like?
I was getting recruited a little heavy in high school. I had about probably 15 to 17 offers, you know, so it was pretty cool, you know, just seeing the different universities and going on visits, meeting different coaches, the players on the team and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. I would say one thing that I did mess up with is I fell in love with the recruiting process than actually finding a place that was for me. And mine was like, I was prologuing so much, just trying to go on visits and waiting and not really just choosing a school that was right for me, you know? So I would say that was a mistake I made with the recruiting process. So the top school I was about to choose and I was about to commit was Iowa, University of Iowa. Me and my guy, LaShawn, that's my brother, we was about to commit because he committed to the University of Iowa. So ever since he was in the recruiting process with me, and ever since we got in it, we was like, yeah, we're gonna go to the same school. So we was going on visits together. So yeah, I was about to commit to Iowa, and my SAT scores was very low, so I had to retake them. And by the time I retook my SAT, I think they had like a visit, and I was going on the next one. They had a visit, and I think like 8 people committed in my position. Mm-hmm. So it was like they told me like, yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry, but the scholarship, you know, it's not. It's going like basically they took it away, basically saying I can commit. So my process was kind of long. It was like, man, I would say about my senior year, I didn't know where I was going until probably January, like a month before. It's like 2 signing day periods, so it's one in December and then one in around February. So I didn't know where I was going until January, and I would say it was like Albany came out of nowhere. I never heard of the school, nothing. And they talked to me, and I was about to go prep school. And I went on a visit to Albany. I went down there. I was like, okay, cool. And it's in New York. First time ever in New York, hearing about New York anything. So this like really my first time. So I go down there, and it was different. It was something. It was just like, I don't know, like it just felt different when I got out there. So, and a big shout out to one of my best friends to this day. His name Larry Walker. He was hosting me for my visit, and like he just kept it real with me from the jump. And it was like, I was like, why not? And then I just committed to Albany. It was just like, it was a great experience while I was there. So
It was just that feeling like you felt like I'm supposed to be here.
yeah, it was just a feeling. It was just like, yeah, I was like, yeah, why not? Like, I was like, because Albany is an FCS, so at that time my goal was to go FBS. I wanted to go to the big school, so I had to shift my mind. I was like, like this is a blessing, an opportunity right in front of me, so why not take it, and just having like going there and seeing it for myself and being around the environment, it was better on making my decision, so I felt comfortable with it. So.
And Albany, you played in almost every game.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, like, how was your experience, and what was like, let's say, a high and low to give you like overall experience?
Coming in as a freshman, I started the second half of the season. Mm-hmm. I started second half of the season my freshman year, and it was a great experience. Like, just being out there, especially with the older guys, and just seeing how college football is played and stuff like that. So it was a good experience for sure. It was just like I had to change my mentality. I feel like with college sports, it's like we could all do the physical. It's just all on the mental. When you get to that next level. So I would say it was my mentality I had to fix and had to change. So, but it was good though. Just being in New York, meeting, having friends out there, different coaches. I got a chance to just be around different coaches, be around different people, new people, being 15 hours away from home. Just having to learn on myself. So it was pretty cool. Just being around there. Well, it was like 3 hours away from the city, so it was it was close to different parts of the New York. So it was cool, and just playing with all the guys out there. Some of my brothers forever, like them be some of my brothers forever playing out there with them, and a lot of them helped me a lot. Larry Walker, Isaac Duffy, Tay Ford. It's a lot. Like it's a Julian Hicks. It was a lot of people out there that I played with. Roy Alexander. It was a lot of people that I played with that helped me out, and we helped each other out for real. So it was just it was a good experience being out there with them and playing up there.
Okay, cool. And from Albany, you transferred to Houston Christian. So yeah, what made you make that decision to transfer?
It was a feeling that I got for real. I was coming back, so I'll never forget. I was coming back in December. The 2022 season, I didn't have a good season that I wanted to have. So I was coming back. I'm like, yeah. And I wasn't locked in as I should have been. That's me and my Larry, we was just talking about that the other day, literally saying how, that season, like, we just wasn't ourselves. We wasn't being ourselves. So it was like going there, going back home, and then I was talking about it with my fam, and I'm like, nah, let me just go back and see how it is, So that spring, I would say around probably like February, March, I was just getting a feeling. I'm like, nah, it need to be a change, Like I just wasn't messing with it no more for real. So I was just like, okay, cool. So I entered the transfer portal. My process in the transfer portal was different. A lot of schools was very interested, but I wasn't NCAA eligible, and because at Albany I was taking like classes for my majors, but I took a lot of like classes that just classes just to get good grades in. So I entered that and I was ineligible. So in the portal, they just gonna go on to the next person if something. So a lot of schools was trying to help me and work out with me, but I was so low. I had to take summer classes at home, had to pay for them out of pocket, So it was just a lot of stuff I had to do. And by the time I finished in the classes in the summer school, it's getting towards about to be the next season for the 2023 season. So it was just like, man, I'm just frustrated. And this is around the time when I got closer to God and my faith. And I just had faith. I started praying. I started getting the Bible more. And literally, Houston Christian hit me up, I think a month before I went there. And I was like, I've never heard of this school either. So I'm like, never been to Houston, never been to Texas, none of that. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm talking to the coach, Coach Petty. He talking to me. He was just telling me about the school, telling me, just Houston, just what they do there at Houston Christian. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was just like, it was really my only choice I really had for real. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go, I'm going to trust God because it's a blessing that came out of nowhere. Because at first I went from, I don't even know where I'm going to be going to now I'm like, oh, okay, Houston Christian came. This got to be, this got to be from God. So I get to Houston Christian. Didn't go how I wanted to go the first in the beginning of the season, played with a lot of great players, Isaiah Cash, Caleb Flagg, that was in the DB room. And, those guys, great players. So when I got there, I was getting not as much time as I wanted to. So when towards like the later season, I was showing in practice that I was able to, I just didn't have to play safety. I could play other positions. So they moved me to a nickel position later toward the season and was played out great for me, just how I ended up here right now today at the position that I'm about to be in. So just having that faith, and one thing I'll never forget, that Houston Christian got me closer in my faith, got me closer in my walk. I had some friends that really, just helped me and led me to God, like just really just talking to me and just giving me wisdom, giving me, knowing that I needed God. Like I grew up in the church, I always like knew who God was, but I just wasn't really in it, like, just in my Bible praying, just in those things. So like when I got to Houston Christian, like just being around those group of friends that I had, it changed me automatically, like quick. Like it was quick that like I had to, get on with. So it was a great experience. Like going to Houston Christian was one of the best decisions I ever made, and it was and I like the position that I was and just the things that had happened in my career there, it was only God. Like I have to give him the glory first and foremost for everything that's happening in my life, because none of this would be able to happen without him. So just having him and just being at that school was truly just a blessing, so it was a great experience being there. I met a lot of great people, great group friends. I have brothers that we all in a group chat, we call it the Millionaire Boys, and those my guys, like those are guys that's gonna be at my wedding, like, just like my guys for real. So it's just having those friends and having those people with me was just a great experience, and like molded me to being the person I am today, So I give a big thanks to, the university, the people at the university, and it was a true blessing, just being there.
And from there, after graduating, you put your name in the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. So, what was the process like of preparing for that NFL draft?
The process was kind of different. I've seen how the process went because of one of my best friends, Jalix Hunt. He went through the process in the 2023 season. So seeing him and being through his process, he was how he was doing it. His is like different from mine, but just seeing how he went about things and what he did, I kind of tried to follow what he did and try to I even called him for advice and things like that. Just seeing how he did it, it was just different going in my way than his way, but he was a big tool, and just watching him and how he moved and how he did things, it helped me out a lot, just being in this process. It was pretty cool. After the season, I was really just trying to find an agent, find where I would be training at, and it really was just how everything happened was all from God, because just how everything fell in place to where me and my agent, me where I'm training at, being out here in Dallas, it just was all like I didn't have no control in that at all. It was all God. So I would say it was a good experience because I put it all in his hands. I let him work. I let him do what he did, and it wasn't stressing. Like even just the process of working out now, it's just not stressing at all because I'm just letting him work and let him do his greatness. So it was great. It was a great experience.
Yeah, and you moved to Dallas to train for the draft. So what made you make that decision to travel over here?
It was really talking with the trainers there now, Jay. I was talking to him, and it was just something about when I was talking to him, and just I seen what they was doing over here, and it was just an instant like, boom, yeah, this the place, this the place where I need to be. This the place where I know they can get me better at. Like it was other places that I could have went, but I don't know, it was just something about here that was just like, yeah, this the one, So big shout out to Jay, talking to me and telling me what they do here at their program at Beaufort. They was telling me what they do and what they expect out of us, and it was very like, okay, yeah, this is where I need to be. So.
And like 1% of players make the NFL. So what are your expectations for the draft? And then are you willing to accept other options like XFL or NFL Europe, things like that?
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely. Like if the NFL doesn't work, XFL, CFL, I'm willing to do all those things. I'm just, like I said, I'm just putting all my faith into God. I'm letting him do his work. It's already written, so it's like I can't really do nothing about it. So what God has planned for me is what's gonna happen. So I'm just, like I said, like I'm just cool now. Like I'm in an area now. It's pretty, like I'm in a good space, right now. So a couple teams are interested, so just seeing how, what's gonna happen, where I'm gonna fall up, So sometimes you do get to worrying, but one thing that I try to always go about is that, you can't worry and pray, So I try to always keep that in my mind. So just to always remember that, yeah, like you can't do both. So I just make sure I'm just praying and making sure I'm just doing what I have to do and just let him do the rest, So.
Yeah. You seem pretty stress-free, so we'll get into your mindset. First off, do you have any practices that you do to take care of your mental health? Like how do you deal with the highs and lows of your sport?
Really just, stand in God's presence. That's a big thing that, especially being out here in this process, staying in God's presence is me. Because, I used to feel sometimes like I used to try to do it on myself or just try to be by myself, but I feel empty. And every time I'm in his presence, like, and I just think, just talk to him and just be with him, I feel like it's like it all goes away. Being around people that's in the same process as me, that's on the same goals, just hearing them and just, seeing, because, sometimes like we be going through the same things in our mind, but we just don't say it, So being around them, it was helpful to hear that, oh, so you going through the same thing. So we try to talk with each other like, yeah, like, okay, like you don't need to worry, like, just get each other, going, because, like this process is not easy. It's not for just if anybody could do it, everybody would do it, So it's not easy. So just, having God and having those great people around you is the best, like, the best thing that I've been going through, that I've been doing, that if I get on my lows, and I try not to get too high because I know it can get taken from me anytime, as fast as he gave it to me, he could take it away faster. So I try to just stay mellow, take it day by day. Most definitely stay humble. That's the biggest thing. I just try to stay humble. I'm a really humble guy, so it's not really hard for me to do that. So it just stand in his presence, stand around good people.
You came here to train, and you're not by yourself. You have a team of players to help you.
Yeah.
What's your daily routine like?
I get up around like 5:30. I start my morning off in prayer. First thing I do, I wake up. I have a prayer book that I read in the morning. So I start off with, reading the prayer book, praying, listen to worship while I'm on my way to workouts. Workouts start around 7. So I get the workouts. After workouts, I would either go back home, eat, then I have to be back at the facility around 2 o'clock, or sometimes when I have treatment or I have like a massage or a chiro, I will just stay at the facility all day and just be there until probably like, because our workouts at 2, our next workout's at 2, so I'll probably be done around like 4:35 with everything, and I'll stay there, do some extra, abs, core. I'll do stretching, just mobility things, and so I end my day every day probably around like 5, 6. I go home. I just really go home for real. I'm reading a book. It's called Atomic Habits. I've been reading that book lately, so I would chill, read some of that, and then I make sure I try to read a chapter a day. So I read a chapter a day in the Bible after that, and then I end my night by eating and just really probably watching some film or turning on a show or something, and just ending my night around there. So I'm usually trying to go to sleep around 10:30. That's when I really try to, be sleep by then. So that'd be my.
You working out from 7 to 5?
Basically,
Really?
yeah. So it's like,
that ain't easy. So
yeah.
What keeps you motivated and what's your drive to keep going?
Keep going. What keeps me motivated and keep going is where I'm from. I'm from the south side of Chicago, the Roseland area. So, like, I have them on my mind every time I'm working out, or every time I'm, feeling like, this is tough. I keep them on my mind because I just want to, I want to show them a different way than what we used to growing up seeing. We used to just growing up seeing rappers, thinking you have to be a rapper or you got to sell drugs to get money or just to survive. And I just want to show us a different way, like, that it's more out here than that, One thing about Chicago, it's like, it's one thing. It's if you out there, for you, like, if you're out there, you have to know, like, it's something you can get stuck in, And, like, if you get stuck, it's just like the circumstances of, like, the things that we have out there and what we around, it's like we really are just a part of, like, our environment, so it's kind of hard, just getting up out of there. So, getting up out of there and just actually having them on my mind, knowing that, people is looking up to me, people is, counting on me, so I just try to keep them in my mind, know that, yeah, like, no matter what, like, I'm going to give it my all today because I can't let them down. I can't, I don't want to let them down, either just let myself down, or, just making sure that I make sure it's a way out there, even if it's not just with football, like getting my degree. I got my degree in December, just letting them know that it's more than just being in Chicago. Like, it's more out in this world than just being out there. So
during this journey, there's a lot of uncertainty and doubt, and you stayed believing. So how do you continue to stay believing and put away that doubt?
Just trying to, like I say, like, making sure I'm just trying to outwork everybody, and me knowing that in my mind that I'm doing what I have to do and making sure I'm working out everybody. It is shown in the proof in the pudding that it can get you somewhere, So I just making sure I just stay consistent with that and making sure I'm just doing that because, like, it shows that it works, Just put in the work, it's gonna work, So just making sure, just my mind and things, and also talking to those guys, getting advice, I have a pretty, couple people that I always can, call and talk to, and they, always helping me out. So, just getting advice from them and making sure I'm taking their advice and, just taking it and running with it and making sure I apply it to what I'm doing, so.
As I mentioned, you have the mentality of the 1%, but is there a mental weakness that maybe you overcame earlier in your career or something you're still dealing with?
And I got comfortable and I just was not myself lackadaisical and not just doing the things that I usually do. So I would say that was a point in time where I was in my mental and I wasn't in the right mental place. Eating all type of crazy things, eating anything, all type of the night, going out, doing stuff that I'm not, usually doing. So it was like, nah, like that's when it was like a point of me when I was leaving. It was a big choice of me leaving too, Albany, because I was like, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. So I want to start fresh, so I would say, yeah, that's.
All right, cool. Before we finish, I'd like to ask you the final five. These are the final five questions I ask every athlete. The first question is, what's a misconception about being a D1 athlete?
That we actually know we work hard at what we do. We just don't just play football or just not giving it our all and things like we actually, especially coming from the school I was at, we actually, have to go to class, have to do our work, have to put extra time in for studying, having to go to the library to do your homework. Like, it's just not just some dumb football players. Like, we actually put in work into ourselves, God, ourselves, life, school, everything, family, so it's just not, we just these stuck up football players, it's not that, I feel like people really have to get to know the person than just a football player. I feel like everybody has this conception on just a football player, but it's different personalities in the football, so you just can't put that one just football player on everybody. So I'll say that's one thing.
All right. What's a memory that at the time felt like the worst in your career, but then looking back, you can either laugh at it or see the value in it?
It was probably being up at too late at a game or hanging out with people we shouldn't be hanging out with before a game, and it showed like in that game like we shouldn't be doing that. So it was a couple times like just doing that, not really locked in, and that could have been time watching more film and things like that. So I would say just wasting my time, not giving it my all. Put my
Can't
all
get
into
that
it.
time back.
Can't get that time back. So every time I just look back at that season, I just be like, what am I doing? Like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Like, just looking back at that, it's like, it's most definitely something I needed and grew from, to show that that's not you, So I always, like, it's not nothing I'd be like, dang, I wish that never happened. Like, I'm glad it happened, So it was because it was something that I need to grow from, So yeah, anytime I look back at that 2022 season, I just get to laugh and just like, what was I doing? Yeah.
All right, then what's the best memory of your career? Whether it could be some smaller or big, just throughout your...
It's either between 2023, 2024. I say 2023 because we made history, at that school. We made history at the school just winning. We had the first winning season in the school. We actually beat teams that we never beat before, at that school, at Houston Christian. So I would say that was probably one of the most fun times I had this year. Like in 2024 season, we beat a ranked team for the first time ever. So it was a lot of history that we made at that school and that we left, and it's just gonna keep getting better, So I would say those probably the two favorite memories I had. Just the overall season for real. I can't even name one part of it because all of it was great memories that I'll never forget. So I'll just have to say those two overall seasons for real.
What's some advice you could give to a younger athlete that wants to be in your position? They want to be D1, going towards the NFL. Like, what's some advice you can give them?
Number one is have a relationship with God. That's the most important thing in this whole process that you could do because he's the foundation of everything, So going back to, and you always need, when it's times when you slip up, and you just going back, always having that strong foundation with God, so you can always go back to it. And I would say making sure nobody outwork you, putting in the work 24/7. Like, make this, like, if this is something that you want to do, make this your job. Like, make sure you give it your all because, like you say, like, you don't want to have no regrets in none of this. Like, making sure that you just gave it all you got, and because you outworking everybody it's a lot of people that's not putting in the work, that's doing the extra things. So you getting that one step and bettering yourself, it's just gonna be night and day. You're gonna see on the field every time, or if on the field, whatever sports you play, it's gonna be night and day, and then you're just gonna see the results. It's gonna pay off. Like they always say, hard work pays off, and I know it's cliche, and know everybody say it, but it's true. Like it's facts, because like the work you put in, it's gonna actually pay off. So just making sure keeping God first and putting in the work, man. Like making sure nobody outworks you. Also, don't compare yourselves and don't get into the other things. Social media is a big thing now, so it's like it's taking over. You see all these things, and it's like just run your own race. That's one thing that I've been hearing in this draft process. Just run your own race. Because what somebody else might have might not be meant for you, but you feel me? Like y'all can both get to the same place. Just everybody's path different. So just running your own race. Just making sure you're not focused and comparing yourself to nobody, because you your own self, and God got a plan for you. So I would say those like the three things that I would give advice on.
All right, that's some good advice. All right, last question. How would you define the word winner? Not anyone else's definition of the word winner, but after a game, whether you actually won or lost the game, how do you tell yourself that you were a winner in that game?
That you gave it all you got. That you did the things that you had to do for your team, not being selfish, and just giving it your all. I feel like, we always want to win. I hate losing. So, when sometimes I have to fix on myself, like, did you give it all you got? Did you do what you had to do? Okay, now let's move on. You don't want to have a loss and know you could have got more. You could have gave more. That will hurt you more than just the actual loss. Knowing that you could have did more for your team and could have possibly put your team in a winning position. I would say that, to make sure like that you're giving it your all. I would define that as winning, and not being even a win or a loss in any situation. Saying that you win, that you gave it your all and you did the best you can.